her voice is just captivating. She's just pitch perfect. The lyrics were really like resounding with me. I loved everything about it. So I just kept going, like I dove into the discography.
Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Accolades Conversation series, in which I talk to some of my favorite artists about who or what they would recommend me checking out. Make sure to subscribe to our channel or hit the like button. Marissa Paternoster is an artist, singer, and guitarist active in New Jersey's New Brunswick music scene. She's a lead singer and guitarist in the bands Screaming Females and Numb. Sleater Kinney influenced her to start a band with bassist Micah Botti and drummer Jared Dougherty in 2005. In the 2012 list, she was named the 77th greatest guitarist of all time by Spin magazine. I spoke to Marissa about Nina Nastasia, an American folk singer-songwriter. A native of Los Angeles, she first came to prominence in New York City in 2000 after Radio 1 disc jockey John Peel began giving her debut album Dogs airplay. The album earned Nastasia a cult following and was re-released in 2004. Her fifth studio album release, You Follow Me, was a collaboration with Australian drummer Jim White of Dirty Tree. As of 2022, Nastasia has released a total of 7 studio albums, each recorded by Steve Albini. Her musical style has been described as folk and country influenced, with neo-gothic overtones, often featuring sparse acoustic guitar accompanied by string arrangements. If you're into my illustrations, please check out my illustration book, Accolades, which you can still find on craterecords.be. This is what Marissa had to add.
I feel like when I go to listen to music now, I only ever want to listen to this one artist. And then when I bring her up, because my obsession with her music is like so overwhelming at this point in my life, they're like, I've never heard that before. And I'm always stunned. Her music's accessible in a way most of the people who are music fans in my world haven't really heard of her. But anyway, the artist's name is Nina Nastasia. Yeah, so I was thinking about her because whenever I go to reach for, I'm in the van and I have headphones on, which is not very often actually, but and I just want to have a little bit of quiet time or listen to music. Really just hits me in this way that I can't really compare to anything else that I've listened to at this point in my life. In high school, I was just so obsessed with bands. And when I got really into Smashing Pumpkins, or I got really into Radiohead, when I would wake up, it was the first thing I did was put on K Computer. And I was so obsessed with listening to music. I made my CD player play through my backpack while school was in session, put it on the volume as low as I could and press my head against the backpack just so I could hear some of it during the day when I wasn't supposed to. Once the last bell rang, I just put headphones in and be I need to hear this stuff more. That experience waned as I grew older, and I still love music more than anything, but being obsessed to it to a degree where I didn't want to participate in the outside world and I only wanted to have headphones on decreased a little bit when the first quarantine was put in motion. I had been meaning to check out her music for a really long time because we played Electrical Audio's, I think it was their 20th anniversary, it might have been 25th anniversary, doesn't matter. They had a block party in Chicago. Electrical Audio, Steve Albini's studio in Chicago. So they had a block party at the Hideout, which is this cute little bar that in Chicago, it's been around forever. It's a tiny little place. All these cool bands played, including mine, which was such an honor. And Nina Nastasia played right before us. And I had heard her name and I knew that one of my really good friends was super into her. I wanted to watch her play, but you might know that when we play, I wear a dress. So I was changing and writing a set list or whatever. And I was like, oh, I missed it. Bummer. I didn't see her. However many years later, quarantine happened. And I was like, well, I guess I have all the time in the world to check out these artists that I've been meaning to check out and watch these TV shows I haven't watched and see all these movies that I haven't seen in the past 15 years or whatever. This is the best thing that came out of it for sure. But I listened to Dogs, which was her debut record. And I think she did all of her records with Steve Albini. I'm not fluent in Nina Nastasia facts. I'm just a very big fan. Dogs had kind of like a country twang to it, but also this orchestral kind of chamber music sound to it that just really resonated with me. And then her voice is just captivating. She's just pitch perfect. The lyrics were really resounding with me. I loved everything about it. So I just kept going, you know, like I dove into the discography and picked apart each album. And after Dogs, they kind of get darker in terms of like lyrical content. It's pretty bleak. The like kind of chamber music elements, all the different orchestral elements, the strings and like clarinet and the oboes, and just like the arrangements were absolutely beautiful. And I couldn't get enough of it. I would listen to like the same song like 50 times in a day. Like recently I was listening to her record that she did with Jim White from the Dirty Three. A little bit of a departure from like her solo work, where Jim White is like, I suppose you would call him like an avant-garde drummer or something, under just acoustic guitar and her voice. And I listened to one song so much that at the end of the day my ears hurt from just like having my headphones in, which was a sensation I hadn't felt since I was 17 or whatever. But now I'm an old lady, so I was like, oh no, do I have to go to the doctor? Like, you know.
Can you describe to me, like, maybe in a few words, like you said, chamber music, country music, that kind of stuff?
Well, I guess I would compare like the first record kind of reminds me. Actually, you know the artist Gillian Welch? Do you say Jillian or Gillian?
I think Gillian, right?
Gillian? Okay, I've said it like out loud like 3 times in my life. It kind of reminded me of maybe like way less country influenced or like folk music influenced than Gillian Welch, but like reminded me of that. And I'm a really big fan of her. I would say that her music is like uniquely probably American. You know, she sings about what I would assume is the American experience, and also covers a lot of like folk standards that are part of that like musical lexicon. It kind of reminded me of that, and then like Nico Case, who also has like a lot of contemporary country singer-songwriter elements incorporated in her like singer-songwriter catalog. But then when it kind of like veered away from that kind of stuff, Nina Nastasia has a record called The Blackened Air, which has so many orchestral elements to it, and just like a lot of really interesting instrumentation, like timpanis and things that like aren't usually present in a lot of the music I listen to. I'm not saying that across the board. For sure, I listen to music that has violins and cellos, and I would say just like her partner did a lot of the arrangements, and they're just like transcendent. He just had the ear for it, and everything just really sit perfectly for me personally as a listener. And I would be hard pressed if I could compare it to anything else, really.
I know that feeling of like being open to find out new music, but coming back to the same thing over and over and over again. What kind of element in her music would be the thing that does that for you, you think, or is that too hard to explain?
The lyrical content's very bleak. The songs are very sad. A lot of them are also about love, the pain of love, the joy of love, how overwhelming love can be, you know, all of the different emotions and associations that human beings have with love. But then a lot of them are about like, one could only interpret as kind of like an existential crisis, or maybe not a crisis, but just kind of like someone asking themselves, why am I here? What am I doing here? What's the point of all this? Blah, blah, blah. And of course, I'm sure we all went through this at the top of quarantine. It's highly relatable content, even without a global pandemic going on. This is all like universally, I would say, relatable content. So I would say that the lyrics were hitting me hard during that time.
Is there something important in music for you to draw you in, like the lyric content?
Yeah, I mean, I would say there are some bands in my life where like the music doesn't necessarily totally floor me, but the lyrics really hit me hard. And the band that comes to mind immediately is a band from the 90s called Scrawl. They had the song called Your Mother Wants to Know, which is like one of the most devastating songs I've ever heard. And I would say musically, I still would call it like a triumph of a song. I think it's a really good tune. But if it didn't have the lyrics that it had, I don't know if it would floor me the way that it floors me. And that song is like way up there for me.
If you know, like someone like me never checked out her music, what would be the defining song that you have to check out to get into what she's doing?
It's hard to pick. I would listen to The Ocean, or it's just called Ocean. It's on Blackened Air. I mean, everything about it is perfect.
Is that the one you listened to 50 times in a row? Or is that...
No, the one I listened to 50 times in a row recently, I feel like is a pretty deep cut, and it's called Late Night, and it's on the Jim White record, the one she did with the guy from Dirty Three, which also had lyrics that were like, for some reason, just like destroying me at the time. That's the one that I listened to like, I don't know, 50 times in one day. That song, I would say, kind of veers off the path of like what I think the natural arc of her catalog does. but it's still a really good fucking song and you should listen to it.
I want to thank Marissa for this conversation. On next week's episode, I'm talking to rapper and trumpet player Pan Amsterdam about his love for the music of Roy Hargrove. Thanks for listening, watching, or however you check out Accolades. Give us a thumbs up or follow our channel. See you next week.